what on earth do you do about their set pieces? The Sunday Times the other day called a meat wall, which I think is a great phrase. The sheer number of bodies they put into the box.
A meat wall.
Meat wall. I don't know if there is a way to stop them scoring those goals.
Arsenal out-corner Chelsea. Like watching Marlow Stanfield out-corner Avon Barksdale in the ultimate clash between Set-Piece FC and Red Card FC. Manchester City keep pace by turning out the lights at the Bear Pit, Elland Road. Manchester United win again. Michael Carrick making interim charges. Manager of the Year award. Everton win. And Newcastle, perhaps best of all, hit 40 points. We're safe, lads. What do we say to the relegation battle? Not today. Not you, Spurs, who seem relegation curious, screaming into the abyss and hearing the abyss scream back, I go Tudor. And to make it all make sense, it's the Crown Prince of Harrogate. It's the Keith Andrews of words. It's Mr. Rory Smith.
Oh, he's got lovely eyes, Keith Andrews.
He does have beautiful eyes.
Lovely eyes, lovely hair.
By the way, that's all management is. We're in a post-tactic, even in a post-Jules world. It's about hair and eyes now, Raw. And we'll dig deeper into eyes being the windows of the footballing soul. But Raw, lots of football to get to. We do need to talk about the big news everyone in football is talking about. The Scottish side of you, by the way, how relieved are you that amidst the many challenges facing the World Cup in a world which just creates more and more agonies for us as we plunge towards the summer? No small thing that FIFA announced Scottish fans can wear their sporrans to the team's games at the World Cup. This is big.
It is good news, Rog. They have made a perfectly sensible decision, one that benefits not just the people wearing the sporrans. The sporran, if you don't know, it's like a little bag that you wear over your kilt. It's basically like a Scotsman's clutch. That's what it is, a sporran.
Scottish man bag, ancient Scottish man bag.
But it works for Scots who want to store their, all their paraphernalia somewhere whilst wearing a kilt. But it's also good for everyone who gets to look at the sporrans as well, because they are a thing of great beauty.
It is. By the way, if you don't know what a Scotsman carries in the sporran, it's obviously rockets and flares that they can put up their anus in the right moment to entertain all of us coming out of their cavities. I'm just relieved that we won't be forced to do the Scottish equivalent of raw dogging, which is wearing the kilt without the sporran raw. It just won't do.
Where would you keep your phone? Where would you keep your, as you say, your pyrotechnics? The risk is if you don't have a sporran and you're looking to store things in that area, you only really have one option, Rog, and it's just not hygienic.
Oh, if you're sporranless, you just got one. Wait, where do you keep your prison shiv if you have to put your car keys and your hotel key up there too, Raw? I don't want to know anymore. Scottish sporran users, please email us the details, meninblazers@gmail.com. Want to give huge thanks to Bank of America, official bank of US soccer, and the FIFA World Cup 2026 for supporting the Men in Blazers media network. Discover what's possible in sports and in life. What would you like the power to do? We're going to dive in, and I want to start by raising a third first Michelob Ultra of the day to the magnificent Jordan Pickford. Yesterday, went into enemy territory, a Sunderland lad entering St James's Park, Newcastle, which is a bit like being a T-bone steak thrown into a kennel of pit bulls. So imagine the magic that must have flowed through his veins. 94th minute, ball dropped out to Tonali on the edge of the area, and the Italian thumped the ball. Absolutely bloody thumped it with perfect body shape, but all of his Lombardan heft on a murderous swipe at goal through traffic, which meant Lil Picky would have seen it incredibly late, but he instinctively flung himself right, and with the strongest wrist, clearly of a young onanist, somehow thumped it over the bar. Raw strength, muscle memory, just athletic ferocity. He then flexed with a roar of the Sunderland fan that he is. There's a photo of James Tarkowski behind him. James Tarkowski, who's seen fire, seen rain, seen all, just his gob wide open behind Little Picky like a 6-year-old who can't quite compute what he's seen. Well, Pickford called it his best save ever. Also, the Nick Pope, one of the many keepers who've been hailed as better than Jordan Pickford, England's number one, mucking up at the other end, probably made it the perfect day. But I just want to say, Jordan Pickford, bona fide Everton club legend at the levels, honestly, of the quite iconic Neville Southall, who Jamie Carragher has been demanding a statue be built of. Rave on, you crazy diamond. That's me internally, Raw. How do you see him objectively?
Yeah, I mean, it is an extraordinary save, just because of the speed with which Tonali hits the shot. His reaction time on it is astonishing. It's totally instinctive, but a really remarkable save. My favourite bit of it, Rog, was that I went to see Dear England at the theatre a couple of weeks ago in Bradford. It's currently on tour. It's the play about Gareth Southgate's England. And Pickford is a character in it. And I've got to say that watching it was quite kind of uncanny. It's very, very talented actors, obviously, but they are doing impressions effectively of people with which we're really familiar. So it takes you a while to get through that like uncanny valley of, are you just doing impersonations? And most of them were very kind of, most of them are very vanilla. So Raheem Sterling, does a lot of exposition. Some of it's a little bit corny, but it's kind of rooted in him. Harry Kane, the accent's a little bit cruel maybe, but it's not far off Harry Kane. And I remember thinking Jordan Pickford, if he ever saw Dear England, would really not like kind of how he's depicted, because there is a lot of kind of frantic movement, there's a lot of shouting, there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of random kind of dancing around. It's not the most flattering portrait.
He only likes musical theatre, by the way, so he's not going to be going to this. No interest.
Interesting fact, do you know who does love musical theatre at your beloved Everton?
Go on.
Kiernan Dewsbury Hall.
What?
Massive musical fan, apparently. Has seen over 50 musicals, yeah.
Oh, I hate a musical, but don't get... I really do. I genuinely hate musicals.
That is a sideline.
Kieran Dewsbury Hall almost came on the show this week. When he next comes on, I'm going to get right into it. Off the top.
Top 5 off the top. Rodgers and Hammerstein. Let's do it, Kieran. No, but Pickford's kind of depiction is not especially flattering. But in the aftermath of that save, it's pretty accurate, to be honest. The flexing, the shouting of Vamos.
Vamos! Vamos! Who knew? Duolingo. By the way, I'm afraid now he's on the Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's got one lesson into his Duolingo. Real Madrid, here we come. It was magnificent, though. The roar, all of it, man. All of it. It's beautiful. It's who he is. When he came on the show earlier this season, I talked about whether that stuff, the faces, the psyching himself up, whether it's for the fans, the memes, the social media. He was like, oh, no, I do it for myself, was his answer. Keep doing it for yourself, man. I bet you that memory with his mates down the pub in Sunderland in the post-season is going to be absolutely divine. Quick word before we get to the football. My book, We Are the World Cup. We've talked about it a lot over the past couple of weeks. It comes out Tuesday, March 3rd, 100 days out from the World Cup. The world is a dark place. I really hope this book is a small dose of joy and optimism for you. If you lived these World Cups, which I write about, I hope it will trigger powerful, joyful memories of your own that you lived. If you didn't, I hope it makes you feel like you lived Maradona, Zidane, all the way to Lionel Messi. And by the time you finish the book, really appreciate the power of what we have coming to us this summer. It's really, please God, a moment in which the world can truly feel, if only for 39 days, truly connected in the best of ways, which is all too rare in our day and age. And what I want to say is that I'm incredibly moved by the couple of thousand of you who've pre-ordered the book. I've sent you all signed stuff this week. You should be getting it. If you've not brought it yet, please take a second to do so this week. There's a link in the show notes. I wrote the book with love, and God knows the world needs a lot more of that love right now. Be in touch with anything at all as you read it. meninblazers@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Courage. But enough about that. To the football. We've just witnessed Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. An incredible game. Two managers under very different kinds of pressure. Mikel Arteta, the kind of rage bait stat going around before this, I mentioned it Friday, is that since becoming Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta spent more days at the top of the Premier League than Pep Guardiola. But the Manchester City manager has 4 league titles to show for it. Enter Chelsea, whose own manager, Liam Rosenior, facing existential pressure of his own. He'd not lost in the league. Hard to tell. The way his reputational bona fides keep getting eviscerated at every opportunity. His team, in his own words, had set fire to 4 points from 2 home games. So very different pressures, but a huge crucible for both men. Maybe that's why football was kind of shapeless on a sloppy pitch. It was fairly fearful stuff in the opening exchanges, the highlights of which all revolved around Robert Sanchez edging, I think the word is, until the very first Arsenal corner. Arsenal suddenly looked like Liverpool in disguise, Raw. Stunning delivery. We'll talk about that from Muster Archer Saka. Going back post, Gabriel got his big old head on it, nodded it back beautifully to his wingman Saliba. Hit it in, should have got extra points. I think it was off the buttocks of a poor first starting Mamadou Sarr. Sanchez added a comedy flip for bonus lols. Raw, in the last Carabao game, Rosenior kept 2 men up at the halfway line to try and force Arsenal to weaken their attack by keeping defenders back. He was not so bold here. 15th goal from a corner for Arsenal as a result. Paid the iron price.
Yeah, and again, it's that issue with Arsenal. What on earth do you do about their set pieces? Because I thought Rosenior in the Carabao game, trying to change the way Arsenal thought about corners was really brave and actually quite smart. And it's one of those things that has been discussed, like, theoretically over the last maybe 6 months, maybe even a year now, since Arsenal developed this kind of, what the Sunday Times the other day called a meat wall, which I think is a great phrase for the sheer number of bodies they put into the box.
A meat wall.
Meat wall. That is how I think about it.
It sounds like Daniel Farke's kind of party.
Very much the place where Farke would be, probably self-confessed, very, very happy.
Yeah, every Tuesday night
every free shots.
Yeah.
And it's easy to challenge it in theory. It's easy to try and think your way around it. But ultimately, if you look at the speed that Gabriel runs in at, the accuracy of the delivery, the height of the leap, and then the fact it's being nodded into this area where there is a meat wall, where there are just loads and loads of people. And to an extent, it's gone down as Saliba's goal because it was sort of theoretically on target. It feels a little bit like he maybe won't be framing the DVD of it or whatever. But I think they're playing the odds, and I don't know if there is a way to stop them scoring those goals.
You know what's crazy is that they were corner mad last season, and people did worked out the moves, were able to buttress the attack. And I actually asked Arteta the beginning of this season, I was like, how are you going to keep these things fresh? And he just winked and smiled. And they have worked it out. I mean, you've nailed it. The tactic, meat wall. I'm sure that's a German word, by the way.
It sounds like it was probably originally Fleischwand, doesn't it?
Oh my God, that sounds like the kind of party that Thomas Muller would love every Wednesday night. Mittwoch.
It sounds like a description of Thomas Muller's position. He's very much a Fleischwand.
Oh, he is. He is a Fleischwand. God bless. He's Vancouver's Fleischwand now, baby. By the way, Arsenal, they are learning. Notice that Declan Rice didn't do any of the everyone keep their head stuff after that goal, Raw. Because in fact, after the goal, it's kind of Chelsea that seemed stunned. Little loss. Caicedo essentially reacted by just pushing any Arsenal player in his vicinity for like the next 5 or so frustrated minutes. But Chelsea, you know, even when they seem to be in bits, are always a team with enough individual skill to take advantage of moments. And they showed that on the stroke of half-time. Quite breathtaking. You got to defend your corners. As I said at the top, we learned that on the wire, right? Reece James, whipped one, hit the near post, and it was Nketiah who flipped it into his own net. The corner hunters, which again probably sounds better in German. There's some Jaeger stuff in there, right? Became the hunted. I saved this tweet from a couple of weeks ago because I loved it so much, from @AlexFricko, who wrote about Nketiah. He's a great player, but he makes me nervous. Feels like watching a dog drive your car perfectly. They're driving perfectly, but they're still a dog.
What was fascinating about that Chelsea corner was that they tried it 3 times. Chelsea had obviously worked out this is how we want to score from a corner. And I think there was one earlier in the half that just bounced wide. There was the one immediately beforehand when Chelsea thought they should have had a penalty. And then there was the one that actually went in. And it was Reece James whipping it. And it kind of arcs up and then dives really fast to the near post. And like a lot of Arsenal's corners, it's borderline undefendable, I think. The bigger question is this really the sort of entertainment we want? I think that's a crucial question to start asking. Probably after you look at what happens in the second half, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, it is an incredible question. By the way, I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, are they now so drilled at corners, Arsenal, that their defenders are just like, it's a corner, it's coming in at pace, I've got to finish it. I mean, we may be at that level.
Here's my chance.
Yeah, just commitment to the bit, Raw. But whatever, it was gobsmacking. And I did wonder at halftime, all of that pressure on Arsenal, the B word always just lingering somewhere in the ether above the Emirates, a huge bottle. I always remember thinking of the Emirates just having this enormous cosmic bottle that's always just hanging by the sword of Damocles, about to like come down and just stomp everyone. For real, a crucible of pressure. And I do wonder what it must have been like to be in that Arsenal locker room at halftime, Raw. You know, amidst all of the, the prop clocks, the couple of pickpockets going around, Win the dog just like mournfully licking at Declan Rice's bare feet. The pressure. I know, just all the past Arsenal shtick, just like floating around in there.
Players just sort of battling their way through crowds of pickpockets and motivational speakers and animals.
The cameraman coming in, they'll be like, not now, not now. Aubameyang wandering in, be like, lads, did I leave a cut? No, get out. The pressure, though, must have been immense.
Yeah, but if you look at Arsenal, Roger, I think they have coped well with pressure. They've obviously had hiccups over the last few weeks. It was 2 wins from 7 at one point, and that counts as we discussed. We went through the scientific terminology. We decided it was a wobble. They did have a wobble, but at the most crucial moments, they've been able to stand up and count. Not least last week in the North London derby, where they'd had that kind of devastating 2-2 draw with Wolves, and they go to Tottenham, have what was it? History won't remember it like this, but have quite a difficult game for an hour. And then kind of ease to victory. So I don't know. I think the one thing that we have to be careful of is assuming that Arteta is quite as frantic in private as he is in public. I'm not convinced that he necessarily radiates calm on the touchline. I think maybe sometimes that's something he could work on a little bit more. I know he's tried. Maybe he's doing the work, Rog. He's doing the work. He's on a journey. But I think in the privacy, the sanctity of the dressing room, my guess is he's saying to the players, this is how we do this. We know how we win this game. We know we can win this game. You just have to kind of keep going, keep doing your thing. And he's normally right. Yeah,
it begins in C and ends in order. Is that what you think he says? It's like the root of the word corner. It's a core and ner.
In the English language, it is core, ner.
Core! I mean, we'll get to the core. When we talk about your question, it's a great one because the players did come out, by the way, to a suddenly noticeably much quieter Emirates. I mean, an Emirates gripped by anxiety. It stopped feeling like a game of football. It was more like watching the team you love, the team you adore, the team you dream about, essentially having to play chess with death. And it was mistake-filled slop. Chelsea ratcheted up the pressure. You saw fatigue in this Arsenal side. Some of those poor souls overplayed. Zubimendi uncharacteristically shattered in this one. Declan Rice, he looked shattered, had to come off. Arteta said post-game he'll be assessed for Wednesday's game. A moment Saliba uncertain. Corners, though, are almost like life rafts for this team. 66th minute, Declan Rice dispatched another stunning arc. Timber found a sliver of space, headed home. Arsenal defenders, God bless them, scored 3 corners on the day, Raw. Hanging out muscled poor Sarr again, by the way, on this one. This is it. 16 total goals from corners now. Joint most ever. Obviously 9 games still to play. Are you like, if it ain't broke, keep milking it? Or are you at a point where you're like, this is like watching a game of corners where occasionally football breaks out?
Both, depending on who you're thinking about. So I think from Arsenal's perspective, obviously it works for them. They're really good at it. They want to win the league. It's clearly in their interest to keep emphasising the set pieces. It's an amazing weapon to have. It means they can have these games where they don't play especially well, where they don't look very fluid, they don't look especially fluent, and they still win. They can reliably score at least once from a set piece every game, if not 2 or 3, and that is an amazing skill to have. But I've got to admit, I did watch this game thinking, it's not even so much the corners. I wouldn't mind if they were kind of thumping, towering headers from the penalty spot, because there is a degree of spectacle to them. But all 3 goals were so scrappy, and it's the ball kind of bouncing around, being swiped at, the kind of second, third ball, little ricochets, deflections. And there is a point where I think that the Premier League is the richest league in history. It is the most popular domestic sporting competition in the world. It is like the blue ribbon sporting event. Certainly for football, if not everything else. Increasingly, it's kind of got greater prominence in the Champions League. And you just watch the goals that are deciding it and you think, is this really worth all that money? All the money that the teams have paid for the players, all the money that we pay to watch it. Should it really be coming down to who is winning the wrestling match at the corners? I'm not sure it is. And for that second Arsenal goal, Robert Sanchez was convinced he was fouled. And then you saw the replay and you thought, look, no one's run anywhere near him. I think there's an arm caressing his shoulder at one point.
He was fouled in the mind.
He's fouled mentally. He's fouled himself mentally.
Don't we all?
But I think his shoulder is caressed by an Arsenal hand at some point. But if anything, it looks supportive. But then you look back at the replay, and obviously here on the TV, the commentators are saying, well, there's no foul there on Sanchez. And they're right, there is no foul on Sanchez. But there's about 8 other fouls happening at the same time, all over the box. There's Chelsea midfielders grabbing Arsenal players by the stomach. There's shirts being tugged.
Pretty sure there were at least 2 decapitations. I only watched the replay twice, but I'm pretty sure in that one. It's at the end of The Godfather, the garrotting. There's a lot
of garrotting going on.
Yeah, a lot of defenestration.
To be fair, all those Arsenal players are practiced pickpockets, Rog. They've been trained in it. They've been trained in the arts of pickpocketry. No, I just don't know. Is that what we want to watch? Is it good for the Premier League that increasingly? And look, this isn't an Arsenal thing. It's not a Chelsea thing. There were quite a lot of goals this weekend that didn't really live up to the billing of best league in the world, and I think that is a problem.
It's fair. And by the way, I mean, it's like watching the UFC fight that's just a ground game. Everyone says, it's for the purists. I mean, it's tough to watch football without open play majesty. But we got another great talking point we do need to get to, the contractually obliged Chelsea red card. A weekly thing, 9th actually of the season, most ever I think in the Premier League era, 7th in the league itself by some stretch. League leaders right now. Neto had just been booked for dissent. I mean, this was almost insanely spot marketing. Within 2 minutes 58 seconds, he decided to let out his team's frustration by diving through Martinelli on the break. Raw. It's in moments like this that you see Chelsea at their heart, this project. A young, raw manager leading a young, raw, inexperienced team. Really, almost to a player shorn of leadership.
Yeah, but that, funny enough, you're completely right, Rog, but that's not necessarily something I'd throw at Neto. Neto's not especially young. He's not inexperienced. He's been around for ages. He's a full international. He's been in the Premier League for, I would guess, like 5 years now. He's one of the senior players in that dressing room, and it does speak to a lack of discipline. Not necessarily the second one, although that sort of suggests a lack of common sense. Why are Chelsea players getting booked for dissent? When you have that disciplinary record, when you know it's a problem, you can't afford to give away cheap yellow cards and put yourself at risk. That's where the issue is, I think. That inability to control their frustration and their emotions when things aren't going their way.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me realised or thought as the resulting football, maybe this was all part of one of Liam Rosenior's cunning plans, because going down to 10 men again, his team seemed to play better a man down. Arsenal, by the way, I don't know if it's like physical fatigue or mental fatigue. We will have no insight into it right now. But this team were vulnerable down the stretch. Chelsea outpassed them with 10 men. This is incredible. 114 to 55 passes after the red. Double. And my God, it got nervy down the stretch. A wobble. I mean, you're the expert. Where would you rank the last 5 minutes for Arsenal, where Araya Palm kept Garnacho away from being the hero, in your kind of grade of Arsenal fearful football?
It's not quite a wobble, Rog, because they got through it. Is it a stutter? It might be a stutter. It might be just
a blink,
a slightly queasy, uncertain anxiety attack.
Yeah, God bless, and thank God it passed. A first league defeat for Liam Rosenior. A man must hate the Arsenal. I don't know if you saw his full-time interview. He looked ashen-faced. Felt like his team were in the ascendancy, angry that the players let themselves down for the 3rd straight game. I mean, he looked haunted at times in that interview, looking at camera. Coming off 2 damp home draws with Leeds and Burnley. Chelsea now down to 6. 3 points behind Liverpool in 5th. Beginning of the dip that we've said would come, that he'd have to weather or show us that he could weather Raw. I mean, the vicious gauntlet of the games that you look ahead to come. Who is it? It's Aston Villa, and then a nasty trip to Wrexham in the FA Cup. PSG, Newcastle, PSG. Okay, Everton 3 points there. And then Manchester City. That is a savage buzzsaw for him.
Yeah, and I think that's why he was so upset about those drop points against Burnley and Leeds, because he knew that there was a spell coming where Chelsea are all but certain to drop a sufficient number of points that they needed everything in the bank. They couldn't afford to kind of waste the points where they could get them. But then on the plus side, Rog, he's got like a 15-year contract. Chelsea don't sack managers. He'll be fine. But
he may be Forest manager by the end of the season, by the way.
But then the other thing is, he's still only lost to Arsenal. They're the only team that have beaten Liam Rosenior.
Yeah,
and that I think is something that deserves a little bit more respect than maybe he's getting.
He's getting almost no respect.
Yeah.
And I hate for him because I think he knows that we know that he knows that we know all that is to come. And Godspeed, man. I wish him well. For Arsenal, 3 points hard won, 5 points clear, one more game played. As ugly a performance as the City game we were about to talk about the day before. But Brighton midweek, then League One Mansfield in the FA Cup of the weekend, where please God Arteta will rest some of his frontline starters. 9 games to go in the league now, Raw. Arsenal players post-match, and in every interview I hear from them, they keep saying the same thing, how much they're enjoying it. They're not enjoying any single moment of this, I don't think. This is all just like grinding through games now at this point, just like low on fumes, just getting it done, winning almost by all means necessary. Are we at a point where the how is actually not important? This is all outcome. The process is almost irrelevant. The process won't even be remembered. It's like, come to watch the corners, just enjoy them, take your medicine, as long as they win this bloody thing.
Yeah, I think the Tifo before the game did say was a big banner saying you've only come to see the Arsenal. I'm not sure that anyone is doing that at the moment, to be honest. Basically, yeah, you're right. To Arsenal fans, they won't care how they win the title. They just want to win the title. I do think the style has an impact on your legacy a little bit, as how you're remembered as champions, and I think that's not entirely irrelevant. I genuinely believe on some level you should try and win the title well, with allowing the fact that well is totally subjective. But I think given 22 years, given the fragility of previous title challenges, given the stress of this one because of City breathing down their necks, I think for Arsenal we are very much in the just get it done territory.
And I think we're going to hear a lot from pundits in the next couple of weeks about the mental pressure on Arsenal. They don't have the ability. They will crumble, because that's really the only storyline, the only narrative that they can cling on to in this moment. I think it's meant. I've said it a number of times. I think it's the fortitude it takes to come second 3 times. So all you know is choking, failing, bottling in the eyes of the wider court of public opinion, and to rise up still and win this thing, I think, in its own right. When you talk about legacy, is pretty humanly remarkable. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Try and enjoy every second. The epigraph in my book is a line for my writing hero, really, Eduardo Galeano, the great Uruguayan poet, who said, "Football is a pleasure that hurts." And Arsenal fans, you are living that out, both sides of that, in every second this season. Back to Saturday evening. Leeds United 0, Manchester City 1. Manchester City over-reliant on Erling Haaland, ? Well, we've said that a lot, and this was a game when we saw how they'd do without him. Hurt himself in training, said Pep. Mysteriously not giving a timeline for his return. I think Haaland may have joined the sidemen on a permanent transfer, Raw. We'll find out. Marmoush and Semenyo led the line in this game, in which they tried to get within 2 points of Arsenal again. But first, they'd have to survive Leeds after dark. Skinamax. This is incredible, Raw. Leeds' record in night games at home. They had not lost under floodlights at Elland Road since August 2023. 24 games. Really, well, you live near there. You go there. I mean, from the outside, it feels like this surreal reinforcement of city, team, fan base that makes, honestly, Elland Road like the worst place to be at night since that juke joint Purleens in Sinners.
Yeah, it's a slightly kind of tricky statistic, because obviously a lot of those games are in the Championship, and Leeds are one of the best teams in the Championship whenever they are in the Championship, so they would naturally win more games. But this season they'd had 7 after 5 o'clock. They'd kicked off after 5 p.m. 7 times, and I think they'd won 5 and drawn 2, which is way better than their home record in daylight. So there is a part there is a point at which, like, the players aren't any better. It's the same team. They've got the same squad.
Night goggles.
It's either that they've got like crazy out of whack biorhythms, Rog, or that Elland Road is a little bit more boisterous, a little bit more raucous when it's night time. And I think that's true. And I've been to more than a dozen Premier League stadiums this season. I don't know if I've been to all of them, but I've been to certainly most of them. And Elland Road is, along with Sunderland, is by some distance the best atmosphere.
I think you've just kind of nailed it. You said on Friday's show, in Yorkshire, there are no monsters in the dark. We're the monsters in the dark. But listening to you, it's pretty scientifically easy to work out. The darker it is, the longer the pubs have been open. And the longer the pubs have been open, ...
I think that might be related, yeah. I mean, I think Daniel Farke, The Athletic asked Daniel Farke about this, and he did say...
Fire beast!
The fire beast does not like a 12:30. No, he did say, like, it's easier for the fans... The fans are coming tipsy, not all of them, obviously, but, the fans that will have been in the pubs, that have been building up to the game all day when it's a 5:30 kickoff or even later. 12:30, there's probably quite a lot of people who are hungover. They might have had
12:30, they're just a dozen of beers in. I mean, it's like amateurs. It's like...
But they might have had to get up early. It's kind of in the middle of the day.
Rory's trying to not say the word hungover.
There will be people there who are hungover on a Saturday, and it's true everywhere, not just at Elland Road. It does change the atmosphere. You very rarely go to a 12:30, even if it's a big derby.
By the way, just to be clear, Rory's talking about the fans, not the players. Although you may be talking about the players.
Very much not the players, Rory. Just the fans. Just the fans.
But God bless those fans, because they bellowed that team on, and within 4 minutes, Brendan Aronson scrappy-dooed his way down the flank, arced in, quite beautiful cross, and poor, beautiful, sweet, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, stabbed wide, really a let-off from the start. Remember, famously, the reverse fixture of this game at City, they were relegation zone. They were 2-0 down. They ended up losing 3-2, but it's where we went 3 at the back, started to try and play counter-attacking football instead of possession-based, and we knew they had lost just 2 of the 14 games. It's very much a different creature. And you saw that here. They pressed, they harassed, they broke out the play with an incredible passion. Pep, I mean, he loves the passion of English football. He was getting a kick out of all of this. I thought watching, he would have the experience to tell his players to weather this storm. Trust that the Leeds adrenaline and intensity would burn off. It's hard to keep up that level of fanaticism, that freneticism up for the whole game. And on the stroke of half time, what was the mood in the stadium like when Cherki fed out Nouri on the byline, pulled back, and Semenyo slapped home and then fired up his guitar? I mean, that was, by the way, vintage Pep Guardiola, the David Silva era from the byline. 14th of the season for Antoine. But what was it like inside the stadium?
A sense of missed opportunity, I think, because for the first 40 minutes, Leeds really had City on the ropes, and in a way that they hadn't when Arsenal had come to Elland Road. Arsenal was solid, unspectacular, and then kind of wiped the floor with Leeds. City looked really rattled by the first, certainly half an hour, up to 40. They didn't have a shot on target until the 40th minute. They'd barely been in Leeds' half, to be perfectly honest. All of the game had taken place from basically all of the first half in City's territory. And I think when the goal went in, it was a combination of, for crying out loud, but maybe not in those words, and we needed to take one of those chances. That's the abiding sensation right on half time. You've been the better team. You've missed 3 or 4 really good chances. You know you're going to get punished, and suddenly the whole task changes.
I mean, I love Anton Semenyo. By the way, we had a really insightful conversation with him. You can find it in the notes below. He's a beautiful, beautiful, humble guy. It's amazing to watch him soar at that higher level. Second half, City tried to kill the game off with possession, sterile possession, really. Leeds honestly struggled to get on the ball. I do love, though, just the energy that Daniel Farke breathes into them, the old fire beast. They are like, I said this last week, they're like Brad Pitt's character in Snatch. They're just like bare knuckle brawlers. They always fancy that they'll have a chance to pop their opponent on the chin. And the last 10 minutes, they made life tough for a quite exhausted City down there. They were nervy down the stretch, like Arsenal were in their game. I mean, they'd seen what happened at Newcastle a week before, and relief for City. The W ultimately all that matters here. Bit like the old cheap tailor's joke, never mind the quality, feel the width. I think Farke, bit annoyed, frustrated, probably venting at the final whistle, got a red card, seething at the timekeeping of the referee's decision not to let Leeds fling the ball in one more time at the death. Really a symbol of Leeds' frustration. They'd played well, they'd been organised, they had a game plan, it was working, and the game somehow had been lost, almost in the margins. Well, for Pep to win at Elland Road at night time, that is some feat, man. He'll be pleased by the improvement of some of the players. I think Nouri, I thought, was very good in this game. Cherki, Gahey continues to excel. But most of all, he'd be relieved that his team emerged from Yorkshire with 3 points in such a hostile setting. I mean, after the game, it was lovely to watch him revel in the fact that the Leeds fans called him wanker, wanker, as he said in his mouth throughout the game.
Yeah, and he was really full of praise for Farke's Leeds. And he was asked a question, perfectly valid question, about kind of whether it's sustainable for City to keep having these narrow games, or whether you're kind of using up mental energy. And that is the sort of question that I think is this is absolutely not a criticism of the journalist who asked it. I don't know who it was. And Guardiola, you could tell he got kind of a little bit riled by it. And I think he took it to mean you should be winning better. But to him, as he said, he kind of looks at Leeds and thinks, well, that's an incredible team. That's a really, really good team. They are hard to play against. They made our lives incredibly difficult. He would obviously have wanted to win that game much more comfortably. He wouldn't have wanted to have to endure that last 10 minutes where Leeds didn't really make any chances, but they did have about 6 attacking players on, which is testament to Farke's courage, to be honest. And they did make City sweat for the win. But that's the challenge of the Premier League, that you're not playing. There aren't any teams, including Wolves now, who go down easily. And I think Guardiola knows that. I suppose the way he'll look at it is City don't have to scrap for every single point, every single win from now until the end of the season. And that will be exhausting. But it's exactly the same for Arsenal.
And for City, Forest midweek, Newcastle in the FA Cup at the weekend, then Real Madrid. And by the way, in the week leading up to the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal, Man City have to play Real Madrid. And then the week leading up to the epic civilization-defining clash at the Etihad, Manchester City may have to travel to Bayern Munich. Context is a killer. From one Manchester to another, and United too. Crystal Palace won this morning after Villa's loss, which we'll talk about. A massive chance for United to move into third place for the first time since the end of the 2023 campaign, propelled by the quite humbly inspirational Michael Carrick. I mean, just remarkable to see that man in his peak out week after week, standing there as a coach in the same stylish way as he played on the half turn, guided them to 5 wins and a draw since taking over. No Premier League team has earned more from the last 6 games than his. Visitors here, Crystal Palace under lame duck Oliver Glasner. Their focus, Conference League or bust now. And instead of tied legs after their Thursday endeavours in that competition, we'll say they came out swinging just the 4th minute from a corner. French big man Maxence Lacroix lost Lenny Yoro, guided a stunning header, placed it beautifully past Lawmans in the United goal. Almost seemed like United needed that sting of conceding to wake into the game. Second half, first a clever Bruno slip pass sent Cunha through on goal. Actually, it was Lacroix who tugged on his shoulder. VAR gave a penalty and a red card for the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. I think, Lacroix with a goal, a red card and a penalty conceded. I think that's called a John Terry hat-trick in the game, Ro.
It is captain, leader, Lacroix. It's a very soft penalty and red card, Rog. It's very soft indeed. That would be my view.
God bless Manchester United into third place. I'm not saying there's a connection. Fernandes thumped home from the spot to make it 1-1. And just 7 minutes later, the Portuguese metronome at it again, slinging a beautiful cross out to the right into the Lacroix-sized hole in the penalty area for Benjamin Sesko. Who else? We've never said a bad word about you, Benjamin. Crashed it home. Stunning. Big Slovenian, 7th goal in his last 8 games. God bless Slovenia, tiny slither of a nation, produced Luka Doncic and the great Šeško. It's amazing hearing Šeško explain what's happened. I think he scored 1 goal every 720 minutes before Carrick arrived. I think it's like 1 goal every 40 minutes or something. Afterwards, he just said, suddenly feels like everyone believes in me again. Is it that simple, Rule?
Well, it can't be, Rog, can it? But Carrick makes it look like it is, and it's not just Šeško. It's most of that United team suddenly looked full of self-belief and confidence and vigour and enjoyment and enthusiasm and all this kind of broiling, brimming excitability to be alive. This zest for life. And Michael Carrick seems like a very nice man. He's bright. He's smart. He doesn't strike you as being like a particularly tub-thumping orator, but he's done something, together with Steve Holland, his assistant, and the staff they've brought in. They have just revitalised basically every player at United. And Šeško, we knew was talented. We knew when they signed him that he was maybe a little bit raw for the price. That was, I think, kind of baked into the deal. And Carrick has unlocked something. He's managed that situation perfectly. But then, to be perfectly honest, he's managed basically every situation perfectly since he took charge.
So that brings us to Michael Carrick. First of all, United win again. Michael Carrick now has the joint best start after 9 games by any manager or head coach in Premier League history. You do know who the other manager is who carries the joint best start for 9 games, don't you, Ro?
Ange Postecoglou.
Yes, I know. It's like one of those great undermining compliments. You're a legend. Oh, who's the other one? Okay. I mean, that does lead us to the point. I think it's fascinating. Carrick, 7 games unbeaten since he took over. By the way, United were 7th when he came in. They had 32 points and now on 51 points in 3rd place. He's won 6 out of 7, 19 points out of a possible 21. It's been phenomenal to watch. And that clamour for Carrick to be given the job permanently is ratcheting up, shall we say, even though United had been there before with the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer experience in 2019.
What a band. What a band.
By the way, cover band, which we're the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer experience. Good night. All of it has left Gary Neville saying last week, this is his quote, "I love Carrick. I think he did an incredible job so far, but I just feel Manchester United should go for the best in-class manager available. I think the best option is to eliminate as much risk as possible." However, Raw, there comes a point where the results make it a risk to eliminate him as well.
There comes a point where what you're doing is ignoring the best available evidence. Like, all we can see so far, and it is a small sample size, and it might turn, but Michael Carrick is good at managing Manchester United. And like, if there was an immediately obvious replacement out there who would definitely kind of covet the Manchester United job, it might be a little bit different. If United think they can get Luis Enrique, maybe there's a case to be made that you go and do that, and you kind of say to Carrick, "Thank you very much, you've set this up perfectly, but we're going with someone who is very obviously kind of one of the best 3 or 4 managers in the world." But short of that, I don't think there's a candidate out there who you could say is any less of a risk than Carrick. Thomas Tuchel looks like he's going to sign a new contract with England, so that rules him out. Mauricio Pochettino would be an option, but you've got to wait till after the World Cup, after the United States win the World Cup, so he won't be around until like early August. And then if you don't get Andoni Iraola or Glasner, both of whom are excellent managers, Glasner's not doing himself any favours at the moment, you don't know how they're going to adapt to that squad. You don't know how they're going to kind of settle into life under the scrutiny that Manchester United attract. You don't know if the squad will be able to adapt to their way of playing. You know all that stuff with Carrick, so why wouldn't you give him the job?
So, will he be the manager opening day next season?
100%. Barring any kind of spectacular collapse from here until mid-April. If United lose 4 games in a row, then it changes, obviously. But if he keeps on this form for another few weeks, why would you not give him the job? Again, unless you've got someone lined up who you think is Pep Guardiola reincarnated, this generation's Jurgen Klopp, you give it to the person who has shown that they can do it. I think anything else would be willfully contrary.
And by the way, it's crazy. They have gone for the best in-class manager before. They've gone for the best, the legend. They've gone for the best young man. They've tried everything, United.
Apart from man who looks like he's a natural fit for the job. That's the one thing they've never had. Whether you get somebody who's got an incredibly sort of glittering CV or not, it is a risk because you don't know how managers are going to adapt to the environment of a new club. You know that with Carrick. You have seen with Carrick over the last 7 games, he's good at this.
He is bloody good at this. And from one red northwestern team to another, to Anfield, Liverpool 5. West Ham 2. Liverpool 3 straight clean sheet wins, which honestly sound better than they were to watch. Your defending champions trying fractiously to claim Champions League football for next season. Entered in 6. Your visitors, West Ham, in the relegation zone, but Nuno-inspired glow up in full effect. Just 1 loss in the last 6. I think 44% of their points have come in their last 6 games. Just 2 points between them and safety for the first time since November. By the way, the team bus getting stuck on a ramp leaving the hotel, I think that's called foreshadowing. In this one, it was Liverpool going corner city. Early doors, Ryan Gravenberch slinging the ball to Hugo Ekitike, coolly slotted home, went with the gladiator Selly. We'll talk about West Ham in one moment. They did create chances in this game. They did press forward through that Dutch chaos agent, Somerville. But pretty well any time Liverpool had a set piece, felt like they scored. 24th minute, another Liverpool corner. Szoboszlai whipping it in for Big Verge to dunk home. Then right before half-time, you guessed it, Mo Salah corner, back post, Ekitike teed up Alexis McAllister to go all crouching tiger, hidden ginger. A really fine scissoring volley, 3-0. Liverpool, first team to score 3 set pieces and a half since 2016. Again, Raw, this was not a game which was as kind of straightforward as it sounded. West Ham did have chances, but Liverpool, this is incredible. Now top of the 2026 calendar for set pieces with 7. At the end of 2025, they were last in the league. They couldn't defend them. They fired their coach, Aaron Briggs. Are Liverpool the Arsenal now, Raw? What do you make of this Liverpool set piecience?
I think it's probably more coincidence than anything, although I suppose with Van Dijk and Konate, they do have 2 players who should be a considerable threat from corners and free kicks. It's just really funny, the absolute transformation in Liverpool set pieces, because they were utterly useless from them for so long. And, in that dark winter period where they just couldn't get a win, you did think, why can't they nick one from a corner? The problem now is kind of the exact opposite. It's why can't they do anything except nick ones from corners? And in a 5-2 win, that doesn't make that much, that's not that much of a worry. But I think against teams who defend corners rather better, that might be a problem.
Yeah, by the way, West Ham oddly will draw some positives from this performance. They edged the expected goals, which is incredible. Alisson, when called upon, made saves that were routine for him, heroic for mere mortals. Quick one on West Ham. Do you still feel a pulse on the patient, Dr. Rory?
100%, yeah. No, I think they it ended up being quite a good weekend for West Ham. They lost, but they lost with credit, as you say. Liverpool helped them by presenting them with at least 3 chances, which feels a little bit like it maybe just skews the XG slightly. But they did create chances. They did cause Liverpool problems. Somerville is in great form. Nuno will have come away from that thinking, it's really annoying we conceded 5 goals to that team who aren't very good, but at least we got at them at the back basically every time they went forward. And then all the teams around them lost. That's the other thing. West Ham would have looked at Anfield and thought, this is a place we have won once in about 60 years. We're probably not getting 3 points. On those weekends, you don't want the teams around you going and winning and changing the gaps, changing the math of it all at the bottom. West Ham, it was a free hit. They didn't take it, but there has been absolutely no punishment for them.
Flip side quickly for Liverpool. 5 goals sounds like they choreographing West Ham, but the fact is, the set pieces aside, a lot of the progressive play was stodgy. They still seem awkward in shape, lacking balance. The idea of football still a work in progress. But they played here again without Florian Wirtz. Gent's got a back injury also for him. He won't be playing midweek. We don't know how long he will be out. The Reds go back to Wolves, by the way, for the FA Cup game on Friday. Mo Salah in his longest ever Premier League goal drought. I think it's 10 games now. How do you see Arne Slot replacing Wirtz's artistry, really, the cohesion in the final third as the nerve centre of the Liverpool attack?
Well, I think what you've seen in the last couple of games is that he can't, really. And that is maybe the measure of how important Wirtz has become. It does seem a long time ago that we were having that conversation about whether he'd settle, whether he was worth the money, how Liverpool would get the best out of him. You can see in his absence how important Florian Wirtz has become to Liverpool, because without him, and as much as you've got Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai in those sort of central roles, without him they don't really create anything in open play, and that's a real concern, because what you've got, even in Wirtz's absence, are some extremely good footballers who still, as you say, don't seem to quite know how to break teams down.
One note here, highlight my weekend, and you can see this on our Instagram. I did love Liverpool, for the first time, had sign language experts on the field during You'll Never Walk Alone, signing the club anthem to the crowd, encouraging supporters to sign along as part of their inclusive Red Together strategy. It was really beautiful. to witness. Even when things are not going perfectly on the field, a club can still not lose sight of, I think, what is the most important thing: the city, the community, one another. Huge respect, huge love. Talking about love. Fulham 2, Tottenham Hotspur, the Everton of the South 1. 4 points between West Ham in 18th place and Spurs at kick-off. One Spurs fan tweeted their pain, saying that he watched Sydney Sweeney dribble the ball before the Sporting Lisbon game, and he can safely say, quote, "She looked better at football than most of our players." As they travelled the 11 miles to Fulham, Spurs, the only team yet to win a game in calendar year 2026. Poor Igor Tudor looks like a man who's wondering why he chose this life. Already weary, 2 weeks in, talking about how the club are poised between life and death. By the way, dude's more hyperbolic than me, which I've got a huge respect for. We wondered if we'd see the fighting Spurs at the first half hour of the North London derby or the slightly surrendering Spurs of that last hour, and we found out within 7 minutes. Oscar Bob, making his first Premier League start for Fulham, nodded back across the goal. The ball flicked off Gallagher and dropped to the unmarked Harry Wilson. Probably the only Fulham player Spurs wouldn't have wanted to see in that situation, but completely unmarked. And he howitzed one into the net. Poor Igor Tudor, he couldn't believe this goal stood. Jimenez pushed Dragusin slightly, but two-handedly before the goal. Looked a little like last week's Spurs equaliser, which was disallowed when Kolo Muani shoved Gabriel. Was it just that Gabriel's acting was better?
But what Igor Tudor's got to get used to, Rog, is the Premier League has a sort of deeper sense of irony than in any other league in Europe. In Serie A or La Liga or the Bundesliga, they're all fine competitions, absolutely, huge tournaments. But it isn't the convention that if you see a goal ruled out 1 week for your team for a vaguely nebulous reason, that the next week, by law, your team has to concede a goal exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's a law of physics. It's the Alanis Morissette law.
It is, yeah, and he's got to get used to the irony of working in the Premier League.
I'm gonna send Alanis Morissette's finest track to Igor Tudor. Although if he does actually listen to it, he will not understand what irony is at the end of it, which is perhaps the ultimate irony. The stat is damning. Spurs have failed to win any of the last 29 times they conceded first. That is just brutal. And they struggled in response, honestly. Had plenty of the ball, could not conjure a shot on goal in the first half. Fulham looked dangerous every time they moved forward. They had Emile Smith-Rowe dropping deep, creating space for Wilson and Jimenez to run into. No surprise when they doubled their lead, to be honest. But my God, the goal was just a stunning poem. Iwobi, 1-2 with Harry Wilson, outside the box, side-footed, with very little wind-up, but somehow generated just arch power, a beautiful whip too. It was almost physics-defying raw. The look on his face when he celebrated, it was like, you can take the boy out of Arsenal, but a goal against the Spurs always feels like it should count double. Richarlison got a goal back minutes later coming on the sub, made it a little angsty at Craven Cottage, started to fill with Spurs hope, but it was not to be. Richarlison's goal, the only shot on target Spurs had all game. There was one moment in comms where the broadcaster said, Spurs look like a team of strangers. Raw, how has this happened that the 9th wealthiest club in football in terms of revenue in the world is hanging by a thread here right now?
Bad recruitment, bad decisions, lack of joined up thinking, it's surprisingly consistent injury list. Spurs, I think that's something that seems to be a pattern now rather than kind of an unfortunate coincidence. An inability to kind of think their way around a problem, uncertain ownership. There's just, everything that you could do wrong, Spurs have done wrong, and it reaches the stage where the best thing that Spurs did this weekend was be in a relegation battle with teams that didn't win either.
Yeah, I will say, when Igor Tudor does listen to Alanis Morissette's irony, there is perhaps an irony that Spurs fans have been waiting, begging, crying, pleading for Daniel Levy to be fired, and this complete and utter freefall. You can't be hypothetical about history. Would have happened if he was still there? We do not know. But that dovetailing is probably a double agony. It feels like no one at the club knows what to do in his absence. Only the second time ever that Fulham had done the double over Spurs. Spurs 10 games now, without a win, tying their longest streak ever back in 1994. It's hard watching Igor Tudor. It feels like he doesn't quite know if he wants to commit to this, whether he really wants to throw himself in, thus become blamed. In his post-match comments, there's still like a bit of distancing between him and his players, still using the shock of, wow, we can't score and we can't defend kind of the language. He does seem to be, and this makes me very afraid, the Wilfred Nancy of Igor Tudor's. Their game against Crystal Palace Thursday is going to be really quite a surreal knife fight. Huge pressure on the players. It's already suffocating. Are Spurs really going to go down?
No, Rog. We talked on Friday about it. I wrote about it in the correspondent last week, the newsletter. I think the fixtures are on their side, but not theirs so much as West Ham's and Nottingham Forest. I think they don't have... Neither of them have got obvious routes to 40 points, which is what you need at this stage, or even 38. One of them, maybe. It's possible that Forest or West Ham go on some sort of run and pick up 3 or 4 wins. We know it's an inconsistent lead, an unreliable lead where form kind of flips in an instant. You look at Brighton a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about sacking Fabian Herzler. All of a sudden, can't stop winning. But, that is kind of what happens in the Premier League now. So it's possible that one of them can go on a run. I think 2 of them doing it is relatively unlikely, to be perfectly honest. And that will be enough, I think, to keep Spurs up. But would you want to be taking that gamble? Do you want to be putting you're the 9th richest club in the world, like you say. Do you want to put your fate in the hands of West Ham and Nottingham Forest? That isn't a great situation to be in.
Oh my God, I don't think you're going down Spurs at all. Just to be candid, Spurs fans, you are safe. By the way, ... but as you said, not because of your own play. I think they'll be saved by West Ham. By the way, thanks to H. Phil in our Men in Blazers Discord, who said, all those years we joked that without Harry Kane but in the team, Spurs would be relegated. We didn't know just how much truth there was in that humour. Slightly less funny for Champions League chasers. Wolves 2, Aston Villa 0. Unai Emery is a man who's seen almost everything in football. A horsefly, a dragonfly, a housefly, but he'd never won in his 4 previous trips to Wolves. And as Villa entered the West Midlands derby in 3rd place, but they'd won just 1 of their past 5 games, all comps, and this one on a boggy, soggy field against bottom-feeding Wolves. First off, a knife fight in the mud on the hour. A moment of magic. Armstrong laid the ball off for João Gomez. Smash first time off the bar. Cue incredible gallows humour from the quite ecstatic Wolves fans. It must have been so joyful to sing this. They sang 1-0 to the championship.
Yeah, they have. They've been doing this for a while now, Wolves fans, and because their relegation has been so obvious for so long, they've been able to get some good lines in. And they are made. It sounds very strange to say, but Wolves are making the most of quite how bleak this season has been.
I think, by the way, they made the most. This is where we're going. But I just adore that on every single level. Heavy rain, heavy mud. Villa created little. Unai Emery losing his mind on the sideline, flinging players into attack to try and salvage anything. But it all left. Villa shields down. And 98th minute on the break, João Gomez found another random Gomez, finished through Emi Martinez to deliver the 2nd Premier League win of the season for Wolves in the biggest game of their year. Cue quite remarkable scenes of jubilance, which I just loved. Remember, this team is still 14 points from safety. But watching the manager run down the sideline, the fans lose their minds, the players charge around as if they just won a trophy. This is a team getting relegated. But they had won something precious, Raw, because beating your hated rival, your hated neighbour, it's still priceless, right?
Yeah, I think it will give Wolves some satisfaction to know that even though they've had one of the worst seasons in Premier League history, which I would just, as a little side note, a little asterisk, Wolves aren't that bad. I've seen Wolves twice live. They're fine, Wolves. I don't quite understand how they've got so few points. But they will know that they can't have nice things this season. But the opportunity to remove nice things from somebody else, that's really precious.
It's the best feeling in life to ruin someone else's day. West Ham, Spurs and Burnley still to play, by the way, talking about being an opportunity to piss in everybody's punch. Aston Villa, 5 games in February, 1 win, 3 goals scored in the process. Best of times and worst of times. As Unai Emery said post-game, he said, 1 month ago I was dreaming about maybe winning the Premier League. Now we are in the average to be in the top 5. They fall to 4th. Seems like opponents know that to throttle Morgan Rogers is to shut down a lot of the threat of this team. Is this a matter of a team which just completely and utterly magically overperformed their XG, all of its data really? It's just drifting towards the mean.
I think there's an element of overperforming that, they were on a hot streak and it's the temperature has cooled a little bit, Rog. But the other thing is fatigue. That Villa have got not just an exacting Premier League campaign, they're in Europe as well, and they don't have quite the depth that the traditional top 6 do. And I think what you're starting to see there is that the players who they've relied on all season are starting to run on fumes.
Aston Villa's midweek game against Chelsea, epic in size and scope and connotation. In other games, Brighton 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Premier League, great goal dance-off. Gomes from an acute angle using the defender as a screen to embarrass Celt a little bit in goal. Forest undeterred. Igor Jesus found Morgan Gibbs-White, who just stepped up with some Bigfoot slap shot. But then, old father time, Danny Welbeck, touch away, span round, bounce the ball off the turf like a wily old Doc Hudson from Cars. All of that raw within the first 15 minutes of the game, which is just incredible. Also incredible, 2 league defeats on the bounce for Forest's 4th manager of the season, Vitor Pereira. Manchester City midweek. For a Forest manager, where would you put his job security? He's already slightly precarious.
I mean, I think he started it slightly precarious. As soon as he put the pen down on signing the contract, it's like with a car when you drive it off the forecourt, it loses half its value. It's the same
what did I just sign? Your death sentence.
Surely Marinakis wouldn't do 5.
Keep going. That kind of a phrase, Raw, he feeds off that. Surely Marinakis wouldn't do 5.
I dare you, Evangelos. I dare you to do 5 in one season.
Do it. It's going to be genuinely amazing. Ange Postecoglou 2, Electric Boogaloo. Don't be a coward. Bournemouth 1, Sunderland 1. Draw between 2 teams who had been going in opposite directions. Bournemouth suddenly unbeaten in 8. Sunderland stopped the rot of 3 straight losses. A different, steelier proposition with the return of captain leader legend Granit Xhaka, who'd missed 4 games through injury, led to the slight, in Rory terms, a wobble. Mayenda opened up the scoring, first goal in 6 months. Then Evan Nielsen shouldered home the equaliser. Raw, I had a dream on Thursday night for real that I went to a wedding and Andoni Iraola was there. And at the reception, man, dream Andoni. He's an incredible dancer.
Is there any other type of Andoni? Is Andoni Iraola himself not a dream?
It was like watching Bass Travolta. Everyone was just watching these moves and oh my God, just watch him let out all that pressure of being a Premier League manager on the dance floor. It's magnificent.
How did the dream resolve itself?
I woke up, the alarm went off. I have very literal dreams, but it's one of the few dreams that I do not know what it means. I have when I'm stressed about work, I dream about work. When I'm stressed about the world, I dream about the world. Dreaming about Andoni Iraola being the greatest dancer was not on my list, but we got to move on. Dream experts, by the way, meninblazers@gmail.com. Please tell me what that means. Burnley 3. Oh, Brentford 4. Just an agony of a game for Scott Parker and Burnley. Clarets were 3-0 down inside 34 minutes. Front of a watching JJ Watt. Dug deep. Fought back, actually made it 4-3. But then Jadon Anthony was adjudged to be a shoulder width offside. And then at the death, Mikkel Damsgaard reminded us there's no romance in football. Scored the winner for Brentford 3 minutes into injury time. But then Ashley Barnes, God bless him, netted in the 98th, triggering huge scenes of jubilation. But his last second equaliser was VAR'd off by those cruel bastards for handball in the build-up after an enormous delay. Didn't we almost have it all? Burnley ended up with nothing. My friend JJ Watt tweeted post-game, if it takes 10 minutes, it is not clear and obvious. Rarely do we hear a co-owner speak up so honestly. And he's not really wrong, is he?
No, I mean, well, so he is and he isn't, Rog. because with handball, it's not clear. The threshold isn't clear and obvious, and that's one of the issues that they've got. Which is, I think that they've managed to muddy the waters so much in terms of what we're looking for that JJ Watt is perfectly entitled to think, well, it's not clear and obvious, so why are you changing it? But the referees will say, well, that's not how handball works. Handball is like offside.
You're going to have to be brave enough to tell him. I'm not telling him.
I don't want to tell him. I'm on JJ Watt's side because I agree with the principle. I think if they can't spot it immediately, I'm not even sure, having watched it several times on television, whether it touches his hand or not. I still don't know. How you rule that goal out because it might have touched his hand, that's some weird like Inception, Bourne Identity stuff going on. I'm not even sure that Jadon Anthony was offside.
Knees, baby.
It was his shoulder, like his clavicular's a thing now. His clavicle, I don't know. It was that bit, and I thought that that wasn't where you took it from. The whole
clavicle
thing,
not looks maxing.
He is, The PGMOL is looks maxing, Rog, and that's the problem. Both decisions I think were ridiculous. I think, again, without being too negative on a Monday morning, I think we've got a real problem. I think we've got a real problem, and they need to think about whether this is the game that we want.
Yeah, we just want corners. Give us corners, man.
People pushing each other at corners. That's what football's about.
Give us what we paid for. It's meant to be entertainment. By the way, I was so rooting for Burnley. I always do for JJ, but especially this week. On Wednesday night, we will be in Houston, marking 99 days out from the World Cup with Mr. 99. JJ Watt. Co-owner Burnley. I'm not going to tell him he was wrong about the VAR. I don't have the confidence.
Put him onto me, Roger. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll just phone you up, baby. You can tell. I've got some bad news for you, JJ. We'll be live on stage at a sold-out Rice University, Brockman Hall for opera. But what is this live twisted? On Saturday, I'll actually be live in conversation with the incredible Brentford owner, Matthew Benham. Managers use data to find marginal advantages, striker after striker, and managers like Keith Andrews and his beautiful eyes just signed a new contract until 2032. We'll be live on stage at Sloan Sports Analytical Conference in Boston. Come and say hi. Give us a cuddle if you're there. Let's save the best till last. Did this really happen? Newcastle 2, Everton 3. Just a remarkable human experience. Up there with watching Andonia Areola dance at the Dream Wedding. The Anthony Gordon Memorial Derby. Newcastle trying to do the double over us. We came out, I'll say, with an unfamiliar intensity. We pressed Newcastle into slop and mistakes. Took the lead off a checks notes corner. We're good at them too now. Swung in. Tonali tried to clear out Jared Brantwaite. Just succeeded in helping him get pushed towards the ball. Just a fantastic flick into the corner. At AITHC noted in the MIB Discord, Brantwaite is from good farmer stock. There's no pushing him. It was a brilliant goal. We're poor man set pieces FC now. Here's the truth, Raw. This is what I want to talk about with you very quickly. When Everton score, I actually don't enjoy it. When we open the scoring, I feel worse than when we concede. And I went to see a therapist, and he said to me this. These are his words. He said, it sounds like you take control of the experience of disappointment by preemptively becoming disappointed. You savour the anticipated loss when the team is down, a stance from which you can quite comfortably root for a win because you don't risk much. But when they take a 1-0 lead, it's inherently less pleasurable because you can't enjoy it. You manage the anxiety associated with the inevitability of them mucking it up by negating the positive mood, and you try and spoil it yourself. What do you think of that?
I think it's really interesting that you managed to find the therapist who's also an Evertonian.
Oh, it wasn't. He was a Liverpool fan.
Really?
Which maybe should be like they should he not have exempt himself medically? Did I? There was surely some conflict of it. But what do you think of it?
You have to recuse yourself there.
As I hear it, it's crazy, man.
That makes sense to me. That you are. I think in the same way.
Spoiling it myself.
Well, no, but we talked about this, don't we, on the Friday show? That both of us struggle to predict our own team to win. Because you are steeling yourself against the idea that they might not. I think that's basic. That's instinctive fan psychology, I think. So it makes sense to me that when they score, you'd be like, "Oh no, this has just annoyed them." I must.
I know. I make a noise. I make a noise when we score. It's a very like. It's a very. Do
you feel like a wash of relief initially?
And then I feel like there's an ecstasy, and my kids go crazy. I feel happy for them, and then it kicks in. It's in waves. Like there is It's like that ecstasy, that weird noise I just made. But then literally within about 1.2 seconds, a darkness, like a cloud, just go, oh, now we have something to lose. Precious. And I just manage it with my own anxiety.
Is it different depending on when you open the scoring?
Honestly, I wish it was. It's not. I always think
95th minute. It's 1-0. Oh, we're going to throw this away.
Well, I mean, by the way, we did give the lead away. Seconds after the commentator said Newcastle had gone behind 7 times and lost 6 of them. So of course, when he cursed to say that, they scored off a massive Gerard Brantwaite deflection. I knew the goal was coming, so it didn't hurt. But then pivot. This shocked me. This was like a punch in my face because 2 minutes later, I had no words, no comprehension, no ability to understand, no experience of how to process. Everton, tenacity, took the lead back. Dwight McNeil, sweet sad Dwight, never said a bad word about you. Speculative shot, Nick Pope, hot messed it, I think, swooped in, allowing who to swoop in, but Beto tapped home. I love that man. Raw, no one is more surprised when he scores than Beto himself.
But that made sense because I'm pretty sure Beto was trying to miss. If you look at how close he is to the goal and how far into the corner he puts it, that is a man who is trying not to score.
That's Betoing, and I love you, man. Newcastle all over us in the second half without really challenging Jordan Pickford. The inevitable, though, late on 82nd minute, Jacob Murphy rifled a shot, another heavy deflection, and it did feel darkness on the edge of the town. So bloody familiar. But again, Everton suddenly only let Toon score so that they could take the lead again. This was crazy, man. Within 60 bloody seconds, Anthony Gordon should have counted double. He was dispossessed, and the quite excellent Kieran Dewsbury-Hall rolled in on goal, prodded the ball home by Tieno Barry. Serious question, Raw. Is there a better finisher in the world of football with his ass? Ex-ass.
It was an extremely unusual part of the body to score a goal with, but I would have said it was lower back. I think he scored with his coccyx.
You do? With his what?
His coccyx.
Yes. Is that not just with his looks maxing? We talked about the Pickford save of saves up top. Man is a biblical bloody hero. Bigger than that. Booze at full time at Newcastle. Is it 5 losses out of the last 6? Champions League is where they are saving their best performances. By the way, Anthony Gordon, symbol of that. 10 goals, I think, in the Champions League. Just 3 in the league. It's the first time Newcastle have lost 3 successive Premier League games at St James's Park under Eddie Howe. Raw, is this how it ends quickly for Eddie Howe after nearly 5 years? Not with a bang, but just a whimper of kind of suboptimality.
There's a little bit of noise and whisperings around the idea that Eddie Howe might be reaching a point where he might think that his journey has run its course, or Newcastle might think that their journey together has run their course. I actually think the issue that he's faced, Eddie Howe, isn't really to do with him. It's to do with the lack of direction from the club's owners, who just seem to have lost a bit of interest, if I'm completely honest. A lot of the promises they made to Newcastle, a lot of the big ideas, the grand visions that they sold to the fans when they took over, just haven't really materialised. And they've appointed a new chief exec who speaks very well about kind of wanting to be one of the biggest clubs in the world by 2030. But if I'm completely honest, if I was a Newcastle fan and I heard my chief executive say that, I think I'd be inclined to think they weren't desperately serious.
CFTO can't fire the owners. Everton, perfect day, good, better, best. 3 points. Striking tandem, both scored. And Anthony Gordon, that Ginge, Benedict Arnold's tears. Incredible list. Only league leaders Arsenal and Manchester City have picked up more points on the road than Everton this season. If only we had a shiny new home stadium that could be our fortress, Raw. But let's go and read a letter from our bulging mailbag. It's been honestly really, really lovely this week in this darkest of times. Your letters sustain us. This one is from the mighty John Black.
And it's a lovely one, Rog, this one. It says, Team MIB, you have no idea what your podcast has meant to me over the years. I get so much joy from listening to it. And I love that it's now something my 11-year-old son can enjoy with me on our car rides to his trainings. My son, who's in remission, went through 2.5 years of chemotherapy for leukemia. He's a true warrior. And that's what I mean when I say your podcast has meant a lot to me. Your authentic passion for football and storytelling provided me comfort and respite during tough times. I could go on more about my love for MIB, John recognising that, at least one of us is British and therefore it's starting to feel slightly awkward. But the reason for me reaching out was to ask a question about the pre-order of your book. Thanks, John. This will be the third of your books I've owned. I ordered 10 books through Elliott Bay. Not because I need 10 books, that would be deeply weird, but because my good mate, also a GFOP, is turning 50 in May, and I want to give him your book. And more importantly, I wanted a personalised video from Rog wishing him a happy 50th. That's what life's about. Much gratitude and courage, John Black.
Raw, a lot of life John Black is living through that.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's an awful lot to go through. And as a parent, it fills you with horror and sadness to hear of kids going through stuff like that, and inspiration to hear of their response and fighting it. And yeah, it's I personally wouldn't turn to this podcast in such times, Rog, but I'm glad that some people do.
So I'm saying, I wish I knew your son's name. Tell us your son's name, because I do want to drop him a line. But my God, I mean, everything he's been to, and then poor bastard has to listen to our stuff. I don't know. Surgeon General, there's got to put a health warning on this crap. John, I want you to know, I was incredibly moved by your letter, because it contains all the bloody good stuff. The friendship, the cross-generational memory making with your son, who sounds like a hero. I really do want to drop him a line. Bonus points for Elliott Bay Books, which is a Seattle gem. I think I can say it's my favourite indie bookstore in the United States, and so many of you have sent so many to me that I do want to visit. But thanks for your generosity of spirit in the moment when my bloody books are so hard. Tell me what you do with the other 9 that you brought. I do want to see them like jammed over every desk, every table, just like, hopefully put to good use.
Presumably he will read one of them himself.
Yeah.
And I guess he'll give one to his son, I would have thought. I mean, I know young people don't read now, but it might make a novel kind of
book on tape.
Yeah, maybe it kind of it makes a talking point for his son and his friends. What's this? What's this ancient artifact? What do you do with it? So you're looking at 7 spare books, and I'm thinking you could kind of be giving that out as Christmas presents to your wife, to your wife's friends, to your parents for a good 2 or 3 years. To be honest, I reckon that's money well spent.
I'd probably just give it to your in-laws. Just here's a present. So I was going to get you some socks you didn't want, but here's a book you don't want instead. Thank you for your letter, John Black, you beautiful human being. Keep writing to all of us here at Men in Blazers at gmail.com. I do try and answer everything. Want to give huge thanks to Bank of America, official bank of US soccer, and the FIFA World Cup 2026 for supporting the Men in Blazers media network. Discover what's possible in sports and in life. What would you like the power to do? And that is it for today. We'll be live in Houston Wednesday, live in Boston Saturday. Come join us quickly before we sign off. Atlanta, we're headed to you for the heartbeat of the American football world. March 27th at the Eastern for our World Cup countdown show. Soccer's coming home, 76 days out. We'll be on the stage, presented by our friends at Bank of America. Come and be with us. Just bring on all of your passion, all of your joy, and we'll celebrate everything that is to come. Link to tickets in the show notes. Really, 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 it's going to be a gorgeous, gorgeous time, and I can't wait to celebrate with you in these crazy times. And to Raw, big, big love on a Sunday to you for being with us. Thank you, beautiful.
The whole week is open to me, Roger. I'm going to go to the Basque Country. I'm going to San Sebastian.
What, to find out why Antonio Raiola is such a great dancer, to get to the roots of the mystery?
I'm going for work. No, it's the Basque Derby, and I've always wanted to go, so I'm going to go and watch Real Sociedad play Athletic Bilbao.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous of your life in every regard. We've talked about getting a Bodo Glimt for so long, but now we look like bandwagoners. Now they're awful. Actually good. The game I do want to go, I'd love to see Real Betis with you more than anything. I'd love to go to that derby more than anything in the world with you, Raw. But it's nice to dream. This is Rod saying, let's not take a second of watching football together for granted. Big love and courage.